scrap is loose. The scrap is loose. Taser's open. 6 people in here.
Duct tape is not something you use on a human.
Locked up. Strapped down.
I've never felt so violated.
The restraint chair is a weapon of control.
He was a good person. He didn't deserve to die how he died.
In jails and prisons across the United States, restraint chairs and multi-point restraint systems are supposed to keep staff and inmates safe.
Yeah, no, gut-wrenching, absolutely. It was really hard to watch.
But do we really know how often someone is injured or dies?
He's saying he can't breathe.
This stuff can wear on you.
It was George Floyd 3.0. It's next level violence captured on video.
We found more than 100 injuries or deaths and millions of dollars in taxpayer settlements across the U.S. that followed someone's time in a restraint chair or system. Some law enforcement facing criminal charges.
The inmate was restrained in a chair, no threat to the deputy.
It's dangerous and it puts people's lives at risk.
But there's no easy way for anyone to know when they're misused.
Who's holding them accountable?
The first line is jail administration.
What would you recommend to other law enforcement using full body restraints?
No comment.
Based on our findings, these tools for correctional facilities across the world.
I think it's a tool that we can have available to us.
I don't believe they should be allowed to use them.
May need correction in how or if they're used.
They're vulnerable.
When someone behind bars is restrained.
Let's get him in the chair.
They do not shed their human rights when they enter into that cell.
I'm Matt Fleener, this is Chronicle. Restraint chairs and full-body restraint systems just like this are designed to keep inmates and staff safe. But our research found the way they're used can cost people their lives. We discovered when and how often things go wrong at full-body restraints. We also discovered that information is costly and hard to get. But that didn't stop us. The goal is to make sure what you saw in those videos stops happening.
Central Dispatch, how may I help you?
I need an ambulance over here immediately. Immediately.
All right. What's going on?
He just got it brought over. I think he's deceased.
Semi for Combs, cardiac arrest, Newton County Jail.
When Forrest Stockton would play his guitar, people were drawn to it.
Daddy wasn't dollar. He wrote it on the fence.
He started like winking at me and I was like, yeah, I like that guy.
Jamie Hammond had an off and on again relationship with Forrest.
Mom, that's literally where I was standing.
Gatlin Stockton is their son.
I think I would be a different person if I had a dad today.
It's all right. Lose your thoughts.
Forrest Stockton loved helping people, but in his last few years, he needed help himself.
I think that he struggled from some mental health issues that were never addressed.
I want the story of what happened to my dad to be heard.
Male subject screaming and walking in the RP's backyard.
The day Forrest went to jail and lost his life would become the center of a federal lawsuit as families settled with all the defendants, medics, police, and jail staff for $630,000. Nobody had to admit fault.
Man, what'd you take?
The lawsuit claimed police and EMS should have taken Forrest to a doctor and not a jail.
Come on, bud.
When they discovered him in the backyard of a home and questioned if he was on drugs.
But you don't have any concerns?
Other than whatever drug he's on, that's all that's wrong with him.
Right, okay.
Easy, bud.
Forrest was never charged with a crime. Police didn't take him to a hospital, but instead to jail on a 12-hour safekeeping hold.
Give you a ride somewhere safe.
His definition of safe is not the same as mine.
Chris Stockton is Forrest's mom.
You doing okay? I said, you doing okay?
Oh, man, it's a little overheated, man, so I was just sitting down in the shade.
Okay.
She says that same officer met Forrest earlier in the day. After speaking with him for a few minutes, the officer gave Forrest a ride across town.
Stand all the way up. Come on. Wow. There you go.
She believes the officer should have known Forrest needed medical attention when he came across him again in that backyard.
And do you know to this day, not a single person with Newton County, not the sheriff, not any of them, have called me and said, anything about it.
I'm sorry for their loss, but I don't know anything we could have done different.
That's former Newton County Sheriff Chris Jennings on the phone. He did not agree to an on-camera interview, but stands by his deputy's actions.
And you believe everything was monitored correctly that evening?
Yes, he was. He was on camera the whole time.
Forrest Stockton?
When Forrest showed up at the Newton County Jail, deputies had a restraint chair ready.
Get your bottom back. Good back.
Let's go back, bud.
Put your rear end against the back of the chair. Good boy. Thank you.
They eventually wheeled Forrest inside, then into a detox cell where he remained in a restraint chair chained to the floor.
By himself. Like alone and scared in a room by himself. He needed someone and there was nobody there.
Until 2 deputies entered with a rubber helmet. One deputy later told investigators the helmet was meant to keep Forrest from hitting his head on the restraint chair handles. On the first try, Forrest flung the helmet off, so the deputies used duct tape to keep the helmet on.
Duct tape is something you use to like fix broken things around the house. Duct tape is not something you use on a human, like ever.
There was still tape residue in his beard.
The former sheriff insists the duct tape was used to secure the back of the helmet together and was not attached to his skin or his hair. An autopsy says Forrest died of acute methamphetamine intoxication, ruling it an accident. But Forrest's family believes he needed a hospital that night, not a restraint chair nor a helmet. Forrest eventually got the helmet off a second time, and for the next 42 minutes, he sat alone, strapped down, until he stopped breathing.
He was heavily monitored. The only mistake there was he should have went to the hospital. They could not have saved him, but he should have went to the hospital. And like I said, we were misled about his medical clearance.
After Forrest Stockton's death, the Newton County, Missouri Sheriff's Department started a new policy. A doctor has to clear someone before a 12-hour safekeeping hold in the jail, not ambulance crews, not police. But the former sheriff still defends the use of the restraint chair.
What other way would you use to calm inmates down?
There is no better way. The restraint chair is used all over the country. It was designed to keep the individual from hurting themselves. Now, that being said, they have to be heavily monitored. He was heavily monitored.
It's really brutal to watch these deaths.
Attorney John Paserno represented Forrest Stockton's family. The family's lawsuit said Forrest was not adequately monitored. Paserno works with other families in wrongful death restraint chair cases too. The video never gets easier to see.
You know that they know that they're in trouble and that they're going to die, and they also know that no one's going to help them.
Paserno also represented the family of Marquise Wagner, who died in 2021 after he was strapped into a restraint chair at the Jackson County, Missouri jail. A lawsuit claimed guards and nurses neglected Wagner's medical and mental health, despite his request for water and saying it was hard to breathe. The sheriff's office did not agree to an on-camera interview about its continued use of restraint chairs, but did say when used appropriately, the restraint chair is a safe and effective tool. As for Wagner, the county eventually settled with Wagner's family for $1.2 million, with no admission of fault for anyone involved.
Should taxpayers be concerned about the way that restraint chairs are used in jails?
Well, I think everybody should be concerned with the way that restraint chairs are used in jails, and certainly taxpayers, we should be concerned with how our dollars are spent.
It's a lot of money. In jails and prisons across the country, we uncovered more than 100 people who died or were injured following their time in full-body restraints. Taxpayers and insurance companies have shelled out nearly $100 million in settlements. In 81% of those cases, lawsuits said staff had a lack of training. Our research also uncovered 15 restrained people with autopsies listing some form of breathing trouble as a cause of death. We found at least 16 people stunned with electricity, 18 people pepper sprayed, others held down until they stopped moving or even beaten.
Lean back.
We also found 60% of those in restraint chairs or full-body restraints had mental illness. 7% of those with mental illness were overdosing on drugs, like Forrest Stockton.
You know, there's the people that you know and you're like, that's greatness.
He did everything he could to help bring a little bit of a silver lining to any situation.
He had a
a strong sense of justice.
His friends and family say they will always remember Forrest's caring spirit.
And
But what happened that night will be hard to forget.
it breaks my heart. Hey, Katie. Good to see you.
At Forrest's favorite bar in Joplin, Missouri, they gathered on what would have been his 37th birthday.
Devastation on that level is just mind-blowing.
They also spoke about the device Forrest was strapped into that night, saying his case should serve as a catalyst to change laws.
I don't think it ever should be used for someone who's having a drug overdose or any kind of medical emergency.
They should never be in use. The only use for them is to dictate an authoritative power that should not be anymore.
What crime did he commit? None. None.
Those who love Forrest wonder what they've missed.
He's gonna miss everything. He's gonna miss graduation. He's not gonna be able to teach him to drive. Like, he's gonna miss his whole entire life. When someone is having, you know, a crisis, you don't strap them down and leave them in a room alone. Someone in a crisis needs intervention.
Many jail and prison staffs are relying on restraint chairs while failing to address a bigger problem.
There's been too many deaths. There's been too many issues in our prison systems.
Failing to recognize when someone is in crisis.
Why y'all doing this to me? Maybe if you didn't come in acting like a complete retard.
Until it's too late.
And then they tasered him 3 times within 20 seconds.
Next on Chronicle, the work being done to hold jail and prison staffs accountable, and the questions that still remain.
Lawrence County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Beaver Dam Church Road.
Okay, what's wrong?
I think somebody down here stalking us, and they're just all over the place. And I just need the officer to come out here.
Okay, who is it?
My name's Jarvis Evans. I just feel like my life is in danger.
On a hot summer South Carolina night,
Hold on, relax. Hold on, stop.
Jarvis Evans needed help.
I'm just trying to help you.
I'm gonna show you.
All right, be calm.
No, I'm not going in that back seat.
Just relax.
I don't want to go in the back seat.
A Lawrence County deputy who responded to his home tried multiple ways to calm Jarvis down,
Watch your foot.
but eventually put Jarvis in his patrol car.
All right, then. Well,
Jarvis's mother was there too.
You let me know.
yes, ma'am. I'll give you a call.
But he needs to go back to Charleston.
It sounds like he needs something for sure.
She wanted him to go to a psychiatric facility in Charleston where he'd been before.
Now we're going left. Yeah, now this is my mama's driveway here on the solid ground.
But after Jarvis left home in the back of that sheriff's car, Lawrence County deputies
Ain't no officer around.
would eventually book him for misdemeanors of breach of peace and resisting arrest.
He's coming in.
He's choking me. He's choking me for dog. I didn't do nothing. Help me, officer.
Look, calm down.
Okay, but don't hurt me. Look at y'all. He hurt me. I ain't doing nothing else.
I came to find out later that he smoked a joint. Apparently the joint was laced.
Man, come on, man.
I heard my son asking, why are y'all doing to me this way? Why are you treating me this way?
Reverend Evans had struggled to find help for her son's mental illness for years. It's the same struggle he faced in his final moments in jail in Lawrence County, South Carolina.
Let's put him on the ground. Put him on the ground.
Law enforcement needs to do their job, but at the same time, we have to have mental health involved so that they can recognize a mental health situation versus a criminal situation.
Let's get him up. Let's get him in the chair.
What happened after Jarvis was put in a restraint chair became the focus of his mother's state lawsuit against the county sheriff and a federal lawsuit against 6 deputies.
Why y'all doing this to me? Maybe if you didn't come in acting like a complete retard, we wouldn't have to do this to you.
Lawrence County eventually settled both for $500,000 with no admission of fault. Again, the video is hard to watch, but necessary to understand what happened.
Pull it back against it.
They had trouble getting him in the restraint chair.
I mean, what have I done?
I saw them put the spit mask over his face, and he wasn't trying to spit at anybody.
One deputy held a taser on his right leg.
And then they tasered him 3 times within 20 seconds.
Jarvis Evans still kicking doors. Ah! Jarvis Evans, he chased me. It ain't scrapped down. It's still Jarvis Evans still living. Okay, I got it. I'm gonna stop. Jarvis Evans, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah! Ah! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
He's counting all the officers that stood around and watched. And nobody did anything.
Hey, Sue. Hey, Sue. In a wheelchair. Knees and everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Officers in here.
Deputies eventually locked Jarvis alone in a cell, strapped in the chair. They checked on him 5 times over nearly 2 hours. The last time, they found him not breathing and could not revive him.
The restraint chair is a weapon of control. It is not anything to keep anybody safe.
A state investigator cleared officers of charges, saying the taser deployment, while arguably not necessary, did not fall outside the parameters of Department taser policy. But his mother still questions why police took him to jail instead of a hospital. We asked the Lawrence County Sheriff's Department if they've made any changes to restraint chair policy since Jarvis's death. A department spokesperson said this was certainly a tragic incident. The sheriff's office declines to comment further.
His death was determined from the autopsy to be an accident. My question becomes, accident from what? Was it an accident because he was tased 3 times within 20 seconds?
Jarvis Evans still living. Okay, I got him. Stop. Jarvis Evans, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Jarvis Evans is one of 16 people our investigation found was stunned with electricity while in a jail restraint chair in the last 10 years.
You can hear one deputy warn the young man. Now suing, claiming excessive...
Missouri State Representative Dr. Bill Allen was visibly moved when we showed him video of an 18-year-old shocked with a taser in a restraint chair. The 18-year-old lived. A judge in Tennessee sentenced the corrections supervisor who used that taser to 5 years in prison.
That can never happen. That has to stop. In extreme cases, a restraint chair may be necessary for a short period of time, but there is no way that anything else should be involved in that, especially tasers or electricity in any way at all. That's obscene and it must stop.
Sit down. We found taxpayers across the country have paid more than $10 million in settlements to inmates stunned with electricity in restraint chairs.
It'll happen again.
In Boulder County, Colorado, a judge outlawed that county from ever doing it again. But in Missouri and Kansas, we analyzed more than 100 sheriff's departments' full-body restraint policies in both states. We found just 2 counties specifically banned stun guns or tasers while fully restrained in those specific policies. But in response to our investigation, the Clay County, Missouri Sheriff's Office has become the 3rd, updating its policy, calling it a no-brainer. Representative Allen wants to make sure they're never again used on restrained inmates, like he saw on video.
Unfortunately, today's the last day to file bills. If it weren't, I would go back and file a bill about this right now, but I will certainly for next year.
Across the state line,
we always welcome the light being shined in the dark little corners. And frankly, until you had sent that email, I don't give these things much thought because honestly, nothing happens.
Douglas County, Kansas Sheriff Jay Armbrister welcomed our look at his department's restraint use and policies. We did not find any restraint lawsuits against his department, nor any use or misuse of tasers in restraint chairs or another full-body restraint called a wrap. The sheriff said he would be open to updating his full-body restraint policy to ban taser use, only leaving room, for example, if an inmate bit an officer and wouldn't let go.
So you would entertain updating the policy to reflect no taser use unless it's the most dire circumstances?
Absolutely. Yeah, because in my brain, and I think that you ask anybody, we have the experts in the room here with us, I can't think of a scenario where somebody needs to be tased unless it's something very, very serious from that chair or from that wrap. And and even the scenarios that I think of are hard to believe would ever happen. But unfortunately, in the world we operate in, this world continues to prove me wrong every day.
This will go across over the person's shoulders here.
Douglas County officers say they continue to train to get it right.
Take the time to really know your stuff. And you pull this down
The county used a restraint chair, or RAPS, at least 33 times last year, relatively low compared to similar counties we reviewed, often to prevent self-harm for inmates.
There are times when there was no other alternative.
Armbruster was the only sheriff in Kansas with a restraint chair or RAP who agreed to speak on camera with us about their use and show us how they're used.
We're the only sheriff's office in the state of Kansas that has a training academy for jailers.
And to ensure that the person can sit up, we will lean them forward slightly and pull tightly.
We found jailers across the country may need more teaching like this. 81% of full-body restraint lawsuits we analyzed in the U.S. cited a lack of training for officers.
Once the cuffs are out, you communicate with your team that they're ready. Control the arm.
Douglas County officers believe it's important to train real-world scenarios and would be open to helping other law enforcement, too.
We're really trying to do the very best we can. I would never promise that nothing bad's ever going to happen, but we've put enough policy and practice and training in place to hopefully avoid that from ever happening, not just with this equipment, but every piece of equipment that we use in this line of work.
After our investigation, Douglas County has started training its officers using video of Jarvis Evans in South Carolina.
Nobody deserves to die the way my son died.
Reverend Evans wants policies and laws changed, saying restraint chairs can be used as cruel and unusual punishment, often for someone not convicted of a crime like her son.
Sometimes I come out here and I just say to him that I'm doing all that I can do to help your sons. And sometimes it reminds me that this is all that I have left of him.
Reverend Evans still mourns.
Just to feel a little closer.
But still connects with her son at his final resting place, hoping no other mother has to endure the pain when being restrained goes wrong.
An accident that did not have to happen.
I am on my way.
Next on Chronicle, it's not just chairs. Another type of full-body restraint is in question.
He was also unable to move because he was put in this wrap restraint, mummified.
A company owner claims it's safer than restraint chairs.
Get him upright and breathing, get him care, it gives us the best possible chance.
But the family of a man who died says otherwise.
I watched the life leave his body.
As life in South St. Louis keeps flowing.
Life keep going on, but I can't move forward.
Oriel Moore still has her tree from Christmas 2023.
Nothing is the same, so I just lift the tree up.
Her brother Othel, who loved Christmas, would never give or receive a gift that year or ever again.
It's still right before Christmas for me. You know, it's still December the 8th.
That morning at the Jefferson City Correctional Center, guards conducted a surprise search of inmate cells. There in the left-hand corner of the video, Othel Moore Jr. is handcuffed and brought to his knees. Just minutes earlier, a guard had pepper sprayed him.
Right here, they've got him in the cart.
Attorney Ben Stelter-Embry represents Moore's family. A federal lawsuit details how guards put Moore into a restraint system called a wrap. Strapped ankle to neck in a rolling cart, Othel is put into a room by himself. A sergeant closes the door to lock it as Othel Moore sits wrapped up, handcuffed, and restrained.
And there's no audio in the video, but you can only imagine how he must have been pleading for his life and begging them for help.
When you watched it, what did you see?
I saw my brother die, not being able to breathe.
And he's saying he can't breathe.
Chicago attorney Andrew Stroth represents Othel Moore's family in the federal lawsuit. He says other prisoners told investigators Othel was struggling to breathe even before being put into the wrap.
The Othel Moore case is the most significant prisoner death case in America.
Inside that isolated cell for 23 minutes, Othel Moore struggled in that wrap system, a helmet and spit mask after being pepper sprayed. He stops moving. It took 3 minutes for a prison guard to slowly get up and stare at him for 30 seconds. Nearly 10 minutes after Moore's last movement, a nurse came to check on him.
It was George Floyd 3.0. It's next level violence captured on video.
3 former Missouri corrections officers are charged with second-degree murder. They've pleaded not guilty.
What would you recommend to other law enforcement using full body restraints?
No comment.
Do you have anything to say to Othell Moore's family?
2 of the former officers told us no comment at a recent court hearing. Another hasn't responded to our request to talk. Court documents submitted to the prosecutor's office said Moore had shown no aggression and made no threats toward officers before he was restrained.
I see deliberate indifference to a man's humanity. Othell Moore had done nothing wrong. He should never have been placed in that room. He should never have been placed in the wrap restraint system. He should never have been put on that card.
What would you ask the person who's selling these wrap systems to other corrections institutions across the country?
Has he ever been in one of those chairs? Does he know anybody close to him that he would put in that chair for any reason?
Who would I put in it? I told you I'd put anybody in my family who's in crisis. They should go in it for their own protection and benefit. If I had a magic wand, what would I want to have happen? I'd want to have the shortest conflict possible.
Charles Hammond sells the wrap through his company, Safe Restraints Incorporated.
Would you have recommended a different course of action with your tool being used that day, that morning in Jefferson City?
Well, again, because I don't know the whole spectrum, just based on how the story was portrayed to the general public and the video that was shown just to the general public, it looked like an opportunity to provide care sooner.
Providing care after restraint is one of the company's main training messages.
We're going to confirm that they're able to breathe, the equipment's on correctly.
Othell Moore's death certificate said his cause of death was positional asphyxia, where someone's body position interferes with the ability to breathe.
Do you believe the wrap leads to positional asphyxia?
Absolutely not. The whole purpose of the wrap's invention was to get somebody to an upright breathing situation.
Why Moore couldn't breathe, and ultimately his death, is the central question in the Moore family federal lawsuit against the Missouri Department of Corrections and officers involved. The lawsuit also questions if handcuffs, leg shackles, as well as the mask over his nose and mouth, combined with the effects of pepper spray, caused his death. The Missouri Department of Corrections and its contractors no longer employed 10 workers after what happened, saying in a statement, "We take seriously our responsibility for creating the safest environment possible and will not tolerate behaviors or conditions that endanger the well-being of Missourians working or living in our facilities." It's also added body-worn cameras to bolster both security and accountability.
You guys did all this training. You tried to put it in place in a very safe way, but then still somebody dies. That's the hard part for them. They can't get past that. And then what do you say? How do you console the family? What do you say to them?
I don't think you can console them. Nobody could console me if my son wasn't here anymore. There are no words. And internally, we talk about each one of these when they come up, and we look and evaluate what role could we have had to make something different. And it all comes down to, we need to reinforce, stop the fight quick, get them up and breathing, get them care promptly, timely, as needed.
Charles hit it on the head. The quicker you can get the person care in your custody, the better the situation is, hands down.
Tim Fosnot directs training for the wrap. With 20 years as a corrections leader in Washington State, he spoke to us strapped in.
So why do you believe in this product?
Well, look, I've done the job. I know the other options that are out there. None of them are as good as what this offers.
Even more comfortable.
Fosnot believes the wrap gives law enforcement a tool to keep themselves and everyone behind bars or in the community safe. Company leaders say they've never had to pay a settlement in a case. They've also sold wraps to more than 2,000 departments across the world with multiple repeat customers.
I wouldn't want to be doing this if I didn't believe that this was safer. And it's safer because of the case law, the number of users, the number of uses per year. We're convinced of that.
Still, The Missouri Department of Corrections has discontinued the use of the RAP system after Othell Moore's death.
I know a lot of their personnel were not happy when the RAP was not able to be used, but I think they understood something happens, we put it on pause, we review, right?
Hammett is hopeful the department can use it again. As for our review of when things go wrong at full body restraints,
I appreciate you guys doing this. This is important work. I hope that our passion for better outcomes is coming through. It's something that we truly believe in. It's something that drives us every day.
Something negative happens, you bring some attention to it so that we actually can learn. That's how we learn. Now, we're obviously super proud of the safer performance of the RAP, but the time to care and the ability to care is something we pound on so thoroughly. You bringing attention to that is a very, very powerful thing. So I don't think this is time wasted at all.
we tried multiple times to contact at least 2 other manufacturers of restraint chairs in the United States, but never heard back.
Those chairs, though, those restraints, period, that's not a good idea.
Still, Oriel Moore would ban full-body restraints, recommending medication or stronger de-escalation. But she says her brother needed none of that. He was not in crisis. He got into the RAP obeying commands after being pepper sprayed.
My brother didn't do anything. I thought that we would see that in a video or something. I was waiting for a clue to why this happened, but no, he was compliant the whole time, so I don't know.
Oriel does know her brother is no longer here, no longer able to celebrate the Christmases he loved.
What did he need in those moments, those last moments?
Somebody with a heart, somebody that cared about people, just period.
Thanks for watching Chronicle. I'm Matt Fleener. We're in Charleston, Illinois, outside the Coles County Sheriff's Department Safety and Detention Center. What happened inside this jail has become the focus of multiple investigations into how restraint chairs should and shouldn't be used. To understand what happened in Coles County, we first went to the Decatur, Illinois Correctional Center, about an hour and a half away.
This is recovery and addiction.
That's where we met Bryce Fritz, who's serving a 5-year drug sentence.
My son turns 6 on June 1st, so my goal is to be out before then.
She landed in the Coles County Jail August of 2021 while withdrawing from fentanyl and meth.
And I remember flipping out on the COs, and I ended up on suicide watch.
A jail report shows she had just started her period. She went to the bathroom and turned the shower on to clean herself when a corrections officer said she could not remain there unattended.
I was a female who was withdrawing, who had started her period, who has mental health issues, somebody who needed more than just to be locked up.
Bryce resisted leaving the shower. She slammed her head into the floor multiple times. Officers eventually put her into a restraint chair while she was naked.
I remember 3 times I got my arm out of it.
That's when an officer put a stun cuff on Fritz's left ankle while she was in the restraint chair and shocked her.
I remember my nerve endings being on fire. It is one of those stories that you're like, that person's lying. There's no way that all of that happened to her.
There was this thing on the records called a stun cuff. And we were kind of like, what the heck is that?
Investigative reporter Grace Houck with the nonprofit, nonpartisan Illinois Answers Project was the first to uncover Bryce's story at the Coles County Jail.
And what we found is this jail at times would restrain people, put them in an isolated room, and then attach what's known as a stun cuff typically to their leg. The easiest way I found to explain it is like a shock collar for dogs, but for humans, it emits up to 80,000 volts of electricity.
Grace Houck also found a report from the disability rights group Equipped for Equality that cited excessive and inappropriate use of force with the restraint chair, tasers, and stun cuffs in Coles County.
People who have been in that situation who I talked to said it felt like torture. They described it as an electric chair, and they say that the jail created the conditions under which they needed to use the shock in the first place, because it wasn't a safe environment, because they were, in Bryce's case, also going through withdrawal.
Are there stun cuffs in use anymore?
No,
here?
stun cuffs have not been in use here. My chief deputy, Tyler Hyleen, he ordered those taken out of service after the Equipped for Equality report.
The new Coles County Sheriff, Kent Martin, was not in office during Bryce Fritz's jail time. He says the department needed new leadership and direction, adding a padded cell, sending inmates with serious mental health needs to neighboring counties. He's also increased hours for mental health professionals while calling on state lawmakers to pay for more mental health facilities instead of relying on jails.
The state's got to get beds available for people that need them.
His jail staff still uses restraint chairs when there's a need.
Do you feel like their continued use in the Coles County Jail is important and necessary?
I think it's a tool that we can have available to us. Like I said, I hope the padded cell will help with some of that, but we need to have options available to us if someone is bashing their head against the concrete floor or against the steel door.
What did you need in that moment?
I needed understanding. I needed somebody to understand that I was not okay and I needed help.
Fritz says a doctor or medication to calm her during withdrawal could have kept her out of the restraint chair with a stun cuff on her ankle.
They knew that I had mental health issues. They knew that I had substance use issues. And the only thing that they could think to do was put me in a chair and electrocute me.
In Chicago, the Illinois Answers Project revealed even more.
So we found every day from 2019 to 2023, almost every day, someone, somewhere in the state of Illinois was restrained in a chair in a jail. Many were 2 hours or less, but also many were far longer. Dozens of cases exceeding 10 hours, some cases exceeding 20 hours, some people restrained for days, with the exception of some periodic breaks in that time period.
The manufacturer of one of the leading restraint chair companies in America recommends people spend no more than 2 hours restrained. Many jail policies say they should be used as a last resort. We started collaborating with the Illinois Answers Project, following their roadmap for records requests. We requested restraint chair policies from all of the 219 counties in Kansas and Missouri. We found 64% of Kansas counties have full-body restraint policies in their jails, 66% in Missouri. All but a handful of counties provided their restraint chair policies for free.
All right, here's the money order, $4.63. I did have to pay $1 extra for a fee. Let's go over to the Greene County Sheriff's Office and see how this process goes. I'm Matt Fleener from KABC.
But Greene County, Missouri near Springfield would not budge after multiple requests for a fee waiver of $4.63 for its restraint chair policy.
We believe this is in the public interest.
So we showed up to ask why.
Why still charge if this may be in the public interest to release this policy?
Everything I've given you is all I can give you.
County staff said it charges for all records requests. We paid the fee. We also drove 2 hours from Kansas City after the Morgan County, Missouri Sheriff's Office refused to email that county's restraint chair policy without charge.
So here's the policy right here.
But they did pin it to the wall of the lobby for us to review for free.
It's Policy 511, Morgan County Sheriff's Office.
We read every word.
Restraint chairs, the type of restraint used prior to the application.
And it was similar to all the policies we got without charge. Our Chronicle team also requested 6 years' worth of restraint chair usage records from Missouri and Kansas counties. Only 16 counties with restraint policies provided records without charge. A majority said it would cost hundreds or thousands of dollars to produce the documents. The Laclede County, Missouri Sheriff's Office wanted to charge us more than $113,000 for staff overtime, even requiring a contract before starting to look for records. We asked for an interview about the county's charges and restraint chair practices multiple times, but never got a response.
What does it say that we're getting charged all of this money?
I mean, it's shocking, and we would not have been able to do what we did in that environment. I don't think we would have had the, $100K to drop to do this.
After the Illinois Answers Project reporting, state lawmakers have called for systemic reform of restraint chair use.
So I think it raises big questions about our criminal justice system, about mental health in this country and in this state, and if there are just better ways we could be doing this than strapping people down to chairs for hours.
Or is there a better way than a stun cuff while in a restraint chair, like what happened to Bryce Fritz?
What would your recommendation be to other county sheriffs across this country about using a restraint chair?
I say don't use it. Makes the situation so much worse.
Next on Chronicle, finding an alternative to restraint chairs and full body restraint systems.
It's because of the absence of that tool, we had to rely on things like de-escalation.
It also impacts the safety and accountability of jails and jail staff.
We introduce you to the people determined to make a change and fix a broken system.
We have to depend on our brains instead of a chair. I wanted to be a Marine, and then I wanted to be a cop.
Wabaunsee County, Kansas Sheriff Eric Kirsch has always wanted to protect and serve. A Citadel graduate, multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, a decorated Marine, and former NCIS officer, he's as tough as they come. But a drink in his office gives a taste of an operational philosophy you might not suspect.
It's just the orange Pellegrino. It's pretty tasty.
Sheriff Kirsch offers sparkling San Pellegrino water to visitors.
Here you are, sir.
He often calls people with warrants to voluntarily surrender, then gives them something to eat and a Pellegrino when they arrive.
It's hard to be mad at someone who's trying to give you snacks. Does that work all the time? No, but it works often enough where we've implemented it as a successful path forward.
He posted this woman's picture with permission to the sheriff's Facebook page after she surrendered. At the bottom, it says, "We're all rooting for you."
I've never been punched here, and people are surrendering. It's on their terms.
His tours of duty have taken him to jails across the world. He says he's seen better conditions overseas than when people are put in restraint chairs here in jails at home.
Stop resisting right now!
They're already behind bars, and then they're restrained even more.
Pretty upsetting, isn't it? Just on the outset, right? Yeah, have you seen the videos? Yep. Make you feel good?
He's seen too many cases go wrong across the country. He never wants to use a restraint chair at the Wabaunsee County Jail.
We never will. It was never in policy, which is a good thing. And I think naturally it's because of the absence of that tool, we had to rely on things like de-escalation.
What's going on? I need to get out of here!
The sheriff set up a demonstration with two of his deputies using de-escalation techniques, one playing an inmate.
Hey.
Who are you?
Hey, I'm Officer Randalls.
What? What do you want?
What's going on, bud?
Deputies stay calm. They stand by the door to escape if needed.
We can get you set up with a bondsman. Get your photo, fingerprint.
And for those in law enforcement who say this would never work in a bigger facility.
It's not prison. However, everything else is the same. They're still, because it's the common denominator. It's human beings.
All right.
The jail captain shares the same view on restraint chairs.
They require very constant monitoring, and even in a perfect situation, everything can go wrong if you're not paying attention.
We found what's going on in Wabaunsee County after records requests to every county in Kansas and Missouri. We found more than 60% of counties had a full-body restraint policy. Sheriff Kirsch wrote back, saying, "I would strongly encourage all current law enforcement and corrections administrators, leaders, and emerging leaders to conduct exhaustive research regarding the use of restraint chairs, then throw that restraint chair straight into a dumpster."
A majority of the counties in Kansas and Missouri have restraint chair policies and use restraint chairs. You seem to be the outlier here.
Yep.
You okay with that?
Yep. I'm okay with it. It's an unusual approach that we take here.
You believe restraint chairs are humane, they're safe, if used correctly?
Yes, if used correctly and monitored, yes. I mean, we have prisoners that will sit there and beat their head on the wall.
The former sheriff of Newton County, Missouri, where Forrest Stockton died in 2018, does not believe the restraint chair caused Forrest's death. He continued to use them after Forrest died.
So he should have been taken to the hospital that night.
Should have been.
The jail now requires a doctor to clear anyone coming into the jail on a safekeeping hold.
If you look at all the times restraint chairs were used, and then actually look at the times that somebody dies in it, I think, truthfully, it's very, very, very minimal.
That may be true, but it's hard to track. There's no statewide database nor independent oversight when things go wrong, like we found in Iowa.
Who's holding them accountable?
The first line is jail administration.
Iowa State Ombudsman Bernardo Grandware's recent investigative report about restraint chair use has sparked changes in county jails for how restraints are used and tracked.
Once they're in the padded cell, they're really limited as to what they can do to hurt themselves.
In response to the Ombudsman's report, Boone County, Iowa's jail got rid of its restraint chair. Webster County said it would increase efforts to report restraint chair use to the state.
Could Missouri and Kansas take a lesson from what's happening here in Iowa?
It's a good report, the report that we issued, so I would say a good first step would be to read the report.
In that report, Iowa's ombudsman recommended if restraint chairs are used, mental health screenings and checks should be a requirement, and when circumstances allow, jail staff must consider less restrictive alternatives.
We have to depend on our brains instead of a chair.
Back in Wabaunsee County, Kansas, Sheriff Kirsch hopes other sheriffs might see an opening to a different way than restraints.
Regardless of what you did, of what you're being held for, you're going to be treated like a human being with dignity and respect, and you're going to walk out of here alive.
Next on Chronicle, remembering those whose stories ended too soon.
He wanted to do things in life like everybody else did.
Families left thinking, what if?
Forrest would still be here, and Gatlin would have his dad, and I would probably still be head over heels.
And the push to be proactive instead of reactive.
Accountability comes after the incident happened. We have to move into prevention of this from happening in the first place.
It's alright to lose your thoughts. It's not alright to lose control.
I miss his hugs. And I miss him playing for me.
Said he didn't mean to cause any harm. He said he didn't mean to cause her any harm.
Forrest Stockton will never get to play his guitar again.
Look at me, boy. See what a man looks like.
At 30 years old, he died after his time in a restraint chair in Newton County, Missouri.
Forrest would have willingly put himself in that chair to protect someone else from going into it.
You know, he was a really great guy. He's like, help people who needed help.
Just a day and a couple decisions that people made changed the whole trajectory of mine and Gatlin's life.
Talk to families of those who've died after full-body restraints in jail like Forrest. You'll find a common theme. Law enforcement must change how or if they use these devices.
I'm just saying, what have I done? Don't move your leg. Okay, but I'm saying...
One of the things that happens with those chairs is it gives those officers what they consider complete power and control over another person.
Law enforcement and corrections, we use tools that can be utilized in a violent and deadly way. And so it's our job to make sure that those tools are used in the best way possible.
In response to our reporting, the Douglas County, Kansas Sheriff's training class for jailers watched video of Jarvis Evans in South Carolina, looking for ways to improve how Douglas County uses restraint chairs. Sheriff Jay Armbrister is also reviewing county policies.
I feel very confident in what we're doing, but I'm also always willing to listen to other perspectives.
Armbrister continues to install a competency restoration program with mental health providers inside his jail to move people with mental illness out of jail much quicker. It could reduce the chances of restraint chair use.
I've never been punched here.
Sheriff Eric Kirsch in Wabaunsee County, Kansas would get rid of restraint chairs altogether.
Say an agency has a very restricted policy and it's perfectly followed. Okay. Is the chance of that policy being followed perfectly 100%? You better have some great supervisors
What would your recommendation to legislators be about this specific device?
Come to the jail. Go to the jail in the town that you live at, wherever you're at in the state, and have a conversation with that sheriff where you live. And then see the chair. And if you are so brave to do so, get restrained for 5 minutes and see if you enjoy it.
3 Tennessee sheriff's deputies suspended after this grim surveillance video emerges. Eyes wide open.
After we showed him video of restraint chairs in use, a Missouri state lawmaker calling for independent oversight of the Missouri Department of Corrections says he'll file legislation to stop restraint chair injuries and deaths in the future.
Accountability in all of these cases is critically important. But accountability comes after the incident happened. We have to move into prevention of this from happening in the first place.
Families say if someone would have just treated those they love humanely in their time of need, injuries and deaths could have been prevented.
I don't want this to happen to nobody else. I would like for the pain that we feel losing him to be the last time that someone has to go through this.
And where a facility screws up is if that happens to them and they don't review it and don't change policies. We did review it. We did change policies from that point on to make sure that did not happen again.
Restraint chairs are still used in Newton County, Missouri. Jail staff now require a doctor to sign off on someone coming into the jail not accused of a crime on a safekeeping hold.
Right here, have a seat, there you go.
But those changes will never bring Forrest Stockton back.
He just didn't deserve what happened to him.
Someone in a crisis needs intervention. They need people. Instead of putting him in a restraint chair, if he could have talked to someone for 30 minutes, and got medical attention, he'd still be here.
Those who love Forrest Stockton want lawmakers, law enforcement, and corrections officials to find better solutions and better training to help people in custody struggling with mental illness or drug addiction that don't include restraining them.
Seizing and convulsing is not attacking them, it's not being violent. And if he'd have been given electrolytes and IV fluids, he'd be with us today.
Perhaps just as he was, playing that guitar at his best.
He was one of the most kind-hearted, caring individuals I've ever met.
It's all right to lose your thoughts. It's not all right to lose control. Now he sits all alone. To his own soul, left here to sit all alone. Daddy was a dollar, wrote it on the fence. Daddy was a dollar, but he wasn't worth 50 cents.